Hello! In this video, I'm going to introduce you to something called Bootstrap. If you haven't heard before, Bootstrap is one of the most popular projects ever for developers. And what it is just a CSS file and JavaScript file. But why would that be one of the most popular projects? Well, one thing you might have noticed is that writing CSS from scratch is a bit of a pain. Wouldn't it be nice if you can use something that has already been created by somebody so that not every single developer has to keep reinventing the wheel and keep writing everything from scratch? And that is the idea behind Bootstrap. Bootstrap was created to solve this problem so that we can create websites really, really fast by using somebody else's CSS and building on top of it. There's also another project called Foundation that does the same thing, and they have their own styles. But again, Bootstrap is the more popular of the two, so we'll focus on that. If we click on Get Started here, it'll have a quick setup instruction, and in the next video, we'll actually build something with Bootstrap. But I wanted to show you, if you go down to Components, what the big sell of Bootstrap is. And that is, it has all of these things pre-built for you. So if I wanted to, let's say, have a navigation bar, well, that's already built for me with drop downs and links. And all I have to do is copy and paste this code. And you'll see over here that they already have classes attached to them. And these classes will be associated with the CSS file that I will download from Bootstrap. So anytime I use something like navbar, it will use the default Bootstrap styles. And there's many things that you can do. As you can see, all I need to do is copy and paste this code and I have myself a card. You can imagine how fast making websites is with this. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is you might be asking, why do I need to also download JavaScript? We haven't really learned that topic yet in this course. And there are some things in Bootstrap, such as drop-down menus. You can see how they're adding behavior, some actions to our website. If I go to, let's say, modals, for example, and I click on Launch Demo Modal, well, this uses JavaScript because there's some action within our website. We won't worry too much about that, and that's something we'll get into when we get to the JavaScript section. But you can see here that with Bootstrap, by just downloading a CSS file and a JavaScript file, we have all these tools at our disposal. Now, you might be asking yourself one other thing, and that is, well, if everybody uses these, won't we all have the same looking websites? And no. The beauty of Bootstrap is that these are just building blocks. You have all these classes that you can use, but then you can add your own custom CSS styles on top of these to make it different. So if I go to buttons, for example, well, by using these classes, I have all these beautiful buttons. But if I wanted to change the behavior of button primary, which is this one, I could create my own CSS file and just put it right after the Bootstrap file and change the primary color to, let's say, orange. And just to show you, if you go to the Expo tab here, Bootstrap actually has a whole bunch of websites that have been built with Bootstrap. And you can see that they all look very, very different. So in the next video, we're going to build ourselves a Bootstrap website. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye. Let's start using Bootstrap. And there are two ways we can use this toolkit. One is to download. And you can just click on the first link. It says compiled CSS and JavaScript. Well, let's just see what gets downloaded. So if I open this, you'll see here that I have a CSS file and JavaScript file. You see there's a bunch of them. You don't have to worry too much about it. It's just different CSS files that are used together based on if you're using the Bootstrap grid or the Bootstrap CSS, and you'll see some of them have the bootstrap.min.css, and that means that they are minified. So if I open this, you'll see that everything is on one line and minified. Right now, all we would need to do is just add this to our project, but I want to show you a better way of doing it, especially when we're getting started. And that is, we can use something called a CDN. So what is a CDN? A CDN is a content delivery network. Bootstrap has this link and they're hosting the Bootstrap CSS files for us. So we don't even need to include it in our project. All we need to do is add this line into our HTML, and you'll see here that the link tag, which refers to a style sheet, has an href that links us to the Bootstrap minified CSS. And that's what a content delivery network is. We don't need to include our files into our project. We just link to someplace else that is actually hosting this file. So let's copy that. Let's open up Sublime, and I'm going to create a new file here, and we'll save it to the desktop, and we'll call it index.html. I save, and let's open that up in the browser as well. Okay, empty because, well, we don't have anything. Here, let's start with our HTML page, and we'll title it Bootstrap. And again, we have that link copied, which is the CDN that says, hey, I want the CSS file from Bootstrap. If you scroll down to the bottom, it also has the JavaScript file. And like I said before, we need these files if we're using features of Bootstrap such as dropdowns or modals that actually add some actions to our websites. So let's just copy this. And where we want to put JavaScript, and again, when we get to that section in this course, we'll talk more about it. We want to put it at the bottom of our body tag. And that is because you want these JavaScript files to load after all the content of your websites have loaded. This way, we have our website loaded and then these scripts get downloaded. If we put these at the top, you'll have to wait for all of them to load before a user can see your website. And obviously that's not what we want to do. Okay, and this is all we need to have Bootstrap working for us. So let's play with a few things. Let's say we wanted to add a navbar. I would go into the components and select navbar. And you can read about how it works. But I really like this navigation bar, so I'm just going to copy the code and add it to my body. And I know it can get overwhelming when you're copying a whole bunch of code and you don't know exactly what it's doing. But if you actually read this line by line, you know everything. It's just a few tags with their own specific Bootstrap classes. So let's save here and refresh. And look at that, we have a navigation bar. How easy is that? And one thing that Bootstrap is really famous for and why people love it so much is that it's fully responsive. So you see the menu bar here. If I make it bigger, look at that. It automatically changes according to what we need. Okay, what else can we add over here? Let's add a Jumbotron. Hello world. Okay, so I can copy this. And again, let's add that right below the nav bar. So again, in Sublime Text, I can minimize this by clicking the side over here. And below the nav bar, we'll add this Jumbotron. Okay, so if I save and refresh, look at that. We have hello world. Let's add one last thing. We'll do a modal. And with the modal, I really like this one, launch demo modal. So I'm going to copy this. And again, I'm going to minimize the Jumbotron just so we can see what we've added. Copy and paste this. Always have to adjust my indentation. Perfect. And I save this and refresh. We have the launch demo modal. And if I click this, look at that. We have our own modal. Now, this, just to prove that this is JavaScript, if I remove these scripts, I'm just going to comment them out, and I click this, nothing happens. And that's what JavaScript is doing. We'll get into it, like I said, later, but there are some features that might not work with Bootstrap if you don't include these scripts. But if you're only using it for styles, then you might not even need these. So if I remove this, if you saw, we still have all of these, but the nav bar isn't working anymore. So again, you can play around and see what you need. You don't need to know exactly what these scripts do yet, so just leave them there for now. Now, how can we change the style so that we can add our own custom look to our website? Well, if we wanted to change something like the launch demo modal button, well, in that case, I can see over here that this is the button, and I can look at the classes that Bootstrap gives us. If I go into buttons, well, here I can see that all these classes have, all these colors have different names. So if I want it to be red, I can use button danger. So again, I can remove primary. Actually, I can just type this out. Instead of primary, I can do danger, save, and refresh. And now the button's red. But again, what if you want your own custom look to the button? Well, that's easy to do. We can now say that from now on, I want button danger to be orange. The way we do that is we create a style sheet at the top. And now we can add our own style sheet, and you can see it's below the Bootstrap one, which means that according to cascading style sheets, our styles will override anything that might match the Bootstrap ones. So let's create a style file here. And I actually have one created already on our desktop. You can see it over here in the same directory as the index.html. And here we can say that the button danger that we just added has a background color of orange. If I save this and refresh, look at that. Our button is now orange, and the hover effect is still red, and that's default Bootstrap. So we can do button danger hover is going to be black. Save and refresh. Look at that. We have our own custom button. You can see Bootstrap is very powerful. We're able to create websites really, really fast this way. And in the next section, we're going to talk about the best feature of Bootstrap that I have yet to tell you about. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. And welcome back. We left off with our really quick website that we built using Bootstrap. But I want to show you one thing that I've kept from you, and that is the layout feature in Bootstrap. And this was the primary reason that Bootstrap was so popular. Because layout was so difficult and we didn't have Flexbox back in the day, Bootstrap allowed us to create very responsive websites using these ideas of columns. To show you what I mean, we're going to create our own column system. We're going to go back to our website, and I'm going to delete everything that we created so far. I'm going to save and refresh. Everything's empty. So in Bootstrap, you can do something like this. You always want to wrap everything in a container. And again, if you go to the documentation, it'll show you what to do. And we'll just grab the top ones. So let's just copy these, fix the indentation a bit. There you go. And if I refresh, well, we need to have a bit of a background so we can see them. So I'm going to say column. We'll do background color gray, and the border will be 2 pixels solid black. Save and go back and refresh. We have our borders. Now here's something interesting that you can do. You can do column small 6 and then column small 3. Don't worry, I'll explain what that means. I'm going to refresh, and look at that. The size of this just got smaller. And that is because Bootstrap has the idea of a grid system, and this grid system has 12 lines. So 6 plus 3 is 9. So it's saying that I want this column to have 6 spaces out of that 12, and this column to have 3 spaces out of that 12. So if we add another column, and 6 plus 3 plus 3 is 12, I'm going to say extra here. I refresh, you'll see that it fills in this gap. What if I put in 4 here? So that is 13, which is over 12. Well, if I refresh, this goes down to the next level. So you see how easy it is to control things in Bootstrap. I could also do something like column extra small. We'll do 12, and then column extra small 6, column extra small 6. And actually we'll do medium here. Save. Let's refresh and see what happens. Whoa. What this is saying that if the size of the window is medium, then I want the whole 12 grid system to the first div, and then 6 of the 12 to the second, and then the extra one, 6. So you can see here that that's medium. But because we have these small properties in here, if I make it smaller, you can see that it resorts down to the 6, 3, 4 grid. Let's change this back to 3 so it looks better, and show you that there's a few other sizes that we can add. You can see over here that we have grid options, and we have small, medium, large, and extra large. So let's do large and see what happens. So for large, I want to have everything on their own. So we can do this. And save. Let's refresh and see if you can guess what's about to happen. I'm going to go from medium to large. Do you see that? 12, 12, 12. So I want each div to occupy 12 spaces, 12 grid systems, which is the full thing. If I go to medium, I now occupy with the first one, 12. The second one's 6 and 6. So they should be one after another. And if I go down to even smaller, the small will have 6, 3, and 3. So this is how you can create really responsive websites. And that was the biggest selling feature of Bootstrap. It was solving this really, really hard problem of making sure that our website looked good no matter what the screen size. So I want you to play around with the grid options here. This is the hardest concept to grasp in Bootstrap. Once you've learned this, it's very, very easy to create websites extremely fast. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.